Hey, what is up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be another episode for Classic Albums Revisited, where it is a segment that I review one of my favourite albums of all time, and I feel anticipated and looking forward very much highly to review this album that is from a different genre that I rarely talk about up until now. And what could be better for me to revisit an album that I still adore immensely to this very day. That is Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. What's Going On is the 11th studio album by American soul singer, songwriter, and producer Marvin Gaye. It was released on the 21st of May in 1971 by Tamla Records. The album was recorded between June to September 1970 and March till May 1971 through sessions at Hitsville, USA, Golden World, the United Sound Studios in Detroit, and also the Sound Factory in California. This was Marvin Gaye's first ever album to be credited as a producer and to credit Motown's in-house studio band, the session musicians known as the Funk Brothers. This is a concept album with its songs connected into the next and has been categorized as a song cycle. The narrative established by the songs is told from the point of view of a Vietnam veteran returning to his home country to witness hatred, suffering, and injustice. Marvin's lyricism explored the themes of drug abuse, poverty, and the Vietnam War. He has also been credited with promoting awareness of ecological issues before the public outcry over them had become prominent. This was a critical and commercial success. It has been regarded as one of the greatest albums of all time. In 2003, Rolling Stone magazine placed it at 6th place on the list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Acclaimed Music placed it at number 7 on the most celebrated albums in popular music history, and was also voted 39 in 2000 by Colin Larkin's all-time top 1000 albums. What's Going On was actually the very first album in the soul genre that I had ever bought. And before I really got into the genre, I had liked the sound of this particular music through multiple singles that are funky, full of orchestrations, to artists like Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, etc. But this was the record that totally grabbed me to get into this particular music, and I just love the genre, and it has been one of my favorites of all time. That's outside of the rock side and the metal side that I continuously talk about a lot on this channel. Marvin Gaye has been personally my favorite male soul artist for a lot of reasons. I love others, but there was something about him that really means a lot to me. I just think that he had portrayed some of the most beautiful, heart-wrenching, and continuing progressive flows of him as a singer, just to be exciting and thrilling to emotional and heartbreaking. It was just a thing that I had loved from a lot of singers, and Marvin Gaye is definitely one of the best examples of those kinds of reasons for me. What's Going On was my introduction to his discography as well. I love the other albums from him, like the classic Let's Get It On, and recently, well, since a few months, I had become a big fan of his really painful album of Hear My Dear. There is so much detail, expression, and true honesty into the simple messages of this album, and not only that, but with the music. What I love about this album is that it may be a concept album that deals with some protests, but the music doesn't need to be angry. It doesn't need to be so aggressive and very dark, but music can just take you to a totally different place while there's a lot of these messages that had been spreading throughout an album like this, that's one of the most clever things that I've ever listened to, just to change the mood and make it different instead of making an angry piece of music because of the word protest. I'm going to go into the entire album track by track because I just love everything about this album. Title track, What's Going On? The rhythm section is absolutely perfect. Big, beautiful delivery of the musicianship done by the Funk Brothers that I absolutely love these guys. The vocals were multi-tracked, and Marvin's vocals bring in a lot of emotional impact, and they are perfect with the catchy and stellar instrumentation. While travelling on his tour bus with the Four Tops on May 15, 1969, Ronaldo Obi Benson, who is a member of the band, witnessed an act of police brutality and violence committed on anti-war protesters who had been protesting at Berkeley's People's Park. I saw this and started wondering what was going on. What is happening here? One question led to another. Why are they sending kids far away from their families overseas? Why are they attacking their own kids in the streets? Returning to Detroit, Al Cleveland, Motown songwriter, wrote and composed a song based on his conversations with Benson of what he had seen. Benson sent the song to the Four Tops, but his bandmates turned the song down. Benson said, "My partners told me it was a protest song. I said, no man, it's a love song about love and understanding. I'm not protesting. I want to know what's going on." Benson played the song to Gaye on his guitar. He felt the song's melody flow would be perfect for the originals. Benson eventually convinced him that it was his song, and he responded by asking for writing credit, which Benson allowed. Marvin's new musical compositions, a new melody and lyrics reflected Gaye's own disgust. Benson said later that he tweaked and enriched the song, added some things that were more ghetto, more natural, which made it seem like a story, not a song. We measured him for the suit and he tailored the hell out of it. The lyrics were perfect in its message and it still stands out. What's Happening Brother, the next track, instrumentation-wise is similar to follow up the title track, but the sound is still brilliant, with jangling bells and brilliant backing vocals, which is another thing that I love. That is one of the big things about this album, as it continues the experience of showing dramatic performances and the musicianship. Lyrically, this dealt with his brother's experience about fighting from the Vietnam War, and this song was dedicated to his brother. Flying High in a Friendly Sky, this is a very, very deep song for Marvin because from the late 1960s he went through a very intense cocaine addiction, and his vocals to this song were exquisite from his falsetto technique. They sound very nice while the music and its sound flourishes with jazzy sounds, and this brings a more classical touch with the bass that carefully places the melody, and the percussion is lovely. It's always one of my favorites on this album, and there are tinges of the sound of gospel that connects with this experience very, very nicely. Save the Children. Now this is a song where Marvin is more like he's addressing things to us really personally, because there's a lot of spoken word that continues this song entirely, while his main singing goes in the background this time, and the lyricism on this one deals about the disadvantaged children that needed to be helped. I feel Marvin's pain on this one, as the way he expresses it is just beautiful, and I adore the music, which builds the sound's mood that is very soft. The next song, God Is Love, the music to this one is more upbeat, with the accompaniments of the piano chords and tambourine that drives the song, and the harmonies were gorgeous, alongside the female vocals that were interacting with Marvin's lead vocals. And this is another vocal performance where Marvin becomes very melodic, which connects to the next song, Mercy, Mercy Me. This is a similar type of beat from the last track, as it was still so good and very tight. It's like What's Going On instrumentation wise, I guess, but this one presents the political messages about the environmental issues. The guitar playing chords were rhythmic and the performances were great. This contains a brilliant saxophone solo. This is a beautiful closing track to close side 1 of this album. Side 2 opens with the longest track on this album called Right On. This is a very improvisational jamming piece. The piano chords were consistent and the percussion grew the song much more intensely with very funky bass lines. And even though this was improvisational, but to me this is another song that connects with the rest of the album. The drums is one of the best things about the album because the beats remained so precise and full of skill, just like the other songs. You could hear the inspirations of the genre of funk, while the music's mood is gentle, and the vocals from Marvin, again, are more of a wail and emotional from his falsetto vocal technique that works so much. I love the syncopation of the vocals melody with the trumpet during the continuation of the song and the orchestration that follows it. This has always been one of my favourites on the album as well. Holy Holy, now this is a song that takes things down really instantly into a mellow and so calm sound. Right when you first listen to the first note, Marvin gets really touching. The saxophone solo again is gorgeous. The exploring of Gaye's simple message filled with less melody and more simple vocal notes. You can still hear the gospel that touches the heart of any music listener who's listening to this album. And I have to say this randomly, but this is like something that Frank Sinatra would have done. The last track, Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler. I always loved this one from the first time I listened to it. Even though that this is a closer to the album, this presents the darkest type of mood than a lot of the songs on here, but I love the very simple melody and the rhythm that Marvin goes into from his vocals, and the music as perfect. The lyricism on this one deals about urban poverty. The bass guitar work was excellent, while the music continues that exploration of its own tone, and the rhythm was full of passion and consistency from the way it was executed. From this album, on being a song cycle, this is definitely one of the best albums to really have one great song after the other from the start to the finish. I could really go on about What's Going On because this is still such a very important and an influential release. And also listen to these messages of the title track, and I wish that a lot of people will come back to the title track of this album and think about it. Think about the very simple messages that Marvin decided to cast out with so much feel. This is definitely a song that is still relevant back then as it is still relevant almost 50 years ago. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On is always a classic, and I highly recommend this. Of course, there are other albums that a lot of people regard as one of the essentials in the genre, but What's Going On is always one of the greatest pieces of music ever recorded to tape. That's all I would like to say about this album from Marvin Gaye, and let me know what you think about this album in the comments down below. One last thing before I will sign off from my review. I have to think about something that is really careful and safe from going through a lot of the hate that a lot of people had been spreading lately because of what happened, which I'm not going to go into, and I'm not a political person myself. These past few days, for me personally, have been emotional and stressed, and whilst the chaos had happened, there was a time that I had played a song called Wallflower from Peter Gabriel, and that really got me emotional because it was so powerful from its message. And with a song like Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, it is a very powerful message because of its simplicity and with how much of a more meaningful song that has always been. But I really hope that we should look out for each other, and please do not accept negativity from anybody because of the colour of the skin. Judgmentalism has always been a really disgusting and hateful thing. They are just being themselves, as myself. We are all human, and why would you want to judge anybody because of their different appearances and to think very negatively? We should all unite equally, bring some more love and positivity. I am really grateful as well to support anybody, and I love a lot of people that reach out for others, as I do the same for these kinds of people. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.